Welcome back to Spector Creative. I'm your host, Toy Guru Neitlich, and today we're talking about popularity. How does one judge the most popular person, thing, alien, spacecraft? Is it the number of followers you have online and how many YouTube videos you post in a day? Well, maybe not for this channel, but with something like Star Wars, it really comes down to character selection, and there's no lack of characters in something like Star Wars, and a brand like Star Wars. I've had the absolute privilege of getting to work on Star Wars. I did so when I was at Jakks Pacific as Director of Marketing over their Big Figs line. And it was really a huge thrill, and a big reason why I left Mattel for Jakks was the chance to work on Star Wars. So when it comes to who is the most popular character in Star Wars, well, Lucasfilm, and I guess now Disney, they run a lot of internal polling to figure this out with customers, asking customers who their favorite characters are. And they pass this information off to key licensors to use. And I don't think it's any industry secret to give away that Darth Vader is by far the most popular. There are other characters that definitely hit the top of the list. Chewbacca, everyone's favorite Millennium Falcon co-pilot, certainly has appeared on quite a few lists. It tends to be the aliens and, also the droids, too. C-3PO is one of the most popular as well. And again, I don't think I'm giving away any corporate secrets to note this. And, when you put C-3PO and Chewbacca together, it's sometimes a magical formula. And, sometimes you get store exclusives like this. But when they get fed through a spreadsheet in a non-organic manner, you sometimes get things like this. K2 from Rogue One was designed to be Chewbacca and C-3PO combined, because they knew C-3PO was popular and Chewbacca was popular, so hey, let's bash them together. And, then they killed him. So that's another issue, is it's hard to have aspirational characters, especially main hero droids, when they don't make it out of the movie, and you have to say goodbye to someone you're just getting attached to. But that's really a YouTube video for another time. Let's go back to Darth Vader, who is the most popular character, because he was not created by a spreadsheet. Darth Vader has a lot of reasons why he sells the best. And it's not just because he's a villain. Obviously there are a lot of villains in Star Wars, and they range from, humans to droids to Darth Vader sort of clones or proteges, if you will. And almost always the villains tend to be compared to Darth Vader. He's sort of the comparison of value that everyone starts with. So looking at another Star Wars villain, Darth Maul here, you might say, well, why is he not as popular as Darth Vader? He certainly looks pretty awesome. Well, Darth Maul is the devil. And no, I don't mean that literally, but I kind of do mean that literally. He is, Lucas's creative vision was, to create something out of, your deepest nightmare, he said to Douglas Chang, the artist on episode 1. And yeah, he's kind of a manifestation of the devil. Horns, red face, black outfit. He's not literally, Mistopheles, but he's pretty evil in that sense, especially visually. And his duel at the end of Phantom Menace was one of the best parts of the movie, but again, much like K2 there, at the end of the duel he winds up dead. Imagine what it would have been like if he'd carried on throughout the prequels as the main villain. Now, I know he was brought back. I know that in the Clone Wars animated series and the comic books, he gets a new shiny pair of legs, and, he definitely didn't miss leg day when it comes to fighting with them. But even though he was brought back in the animated series and did show up in the live-action movies briefly at the end of Solo, sorry, spoiler alert for a 4-year-old movie, he winds up dead again in Rebels. Again, spoiler alert for a 3-year-old show. So Darth Vader, while he does eventually die at the end of Return of the Jedi, there's something about him that makes him stand out amongst not only the villains, but all Star Wars characters. So let's look at that. And the first thing is that Darth Vader has a mask. And, I don't necessarily mean like, a COVID-19 face mask like this, but a mask that covers the face. Now, why is this important? Why does it make him aspirational? Well, for children, being able to hide and cover one's face is a very empowering thing. Because as a child, the world is a very scary place. It's huge. It's filled with giant adults and giant buildings and giant machines and vehicles. And any opportunity to take back power from the world and to be able to have power over that world that is so imposing on you as a child is very empowering. And masks do this for kids because it helps let them feel that not only are they protected from the world, but in a way they can kind of control the world because it's not them, they're someone else. And that other person has lots of power. It's why a lot of superheroes wear masks, not just to, hide their secret identity, but why kids find them so aspirational is because the mask is what allows you to be someone else. You can hide your identity. Looking at a lot of villains, for the most part, villains don't wear masks. You usually see their face pretty clearly. I mean, there are exceptions to the rule, your Victor Von Dooms and all that. But for the most part, masks tend to be something that heroes wear over villains. And I know the comment section is going to explode with examples, but by and by you will see villains, for every Thanos and Doc Ock out there, yeah, there's going to be, villains with everything from Zorro masks to, Scorpion from Spider-Man has a full face mask. But in Star Wars, most of the villains go maskless. When Kylo Ren took his mask off, he became, for kids especially, a lot less cool because he was less mysterious, and it's harder to see yourself as a character without a mask. It's a reason that Boba Fett is also hugely popular, because we don't know what he looks like under his mask. Well, I guess until we did learn that in Episode 2 and in The Mandalorian, but the point is, being able to hide your face is not only aspirational, but it's empowering, especially for kids, because it allows them to be someone else other than who they are and imagine what else they could be. And that brings us into the second aspect of Darth Vader and his costume that makes him incredibly aspirational to kids, and that's the fact that Darth Vader wears a cape. And you might say, well, wait a minute, what the heck does that have to do? It's just something that, drapes on the floor.
I believe he is wearing a cape.
Well, a cape is seen by a lot of children as the source of superpowers, because Superman wears a cape. And Batman wears a cape. I mean, I know Batman doesn't have superpowers, but it is a fashion motif that equals super abilities in our modern culture. And I know Darth Vader is not the only Star Wars character to wear a cape. I mean, but Grievous is, a robot that wears a cape. I mean, yes, I know he's got some biological parts in there, but more or less, he's a robot with chicken legs. Getting to wear a cape is a very empowering thing for kids. And combine that with a mask, I mean, that is a formula that really allows children to see themselves as the character and then be empowered, have the powers of that character, because all the powers come from capes. It's just a thing. Darth Vader also has his own ship, and that's a really big thing too. He has his own custom version of a TIE fighter. He has his own custom version of an Imperial Star Destroyer. And, especially from a child's point of view, he has the Death Star. He controls the Death Star. And yes, I know, there's the Emperor, and there's all the Imperial officers, and, of course there's Grand Moff Tarkin, but you ask a kid who runs the Death Star, I can guarantee they are not going to know who Peter Cushing is or Grand Moff Tarkin. They're going to say Darth Vader runs the Death Star. And that's what makes him cool. He's got the coolest ships. And not to mention, he's got one of the coolest weapons. He's got an instant transformation red blade that can cut through anything. I mean, yes, the good guys have blades too, but Darth Vader's got a red one, and that looks very powerful. And then rounding it out, his superpower, his ability to choke people, something the Jedi don't do. Well, this is actually quite aspirational for kids as well. And yeah, no, I'm not saying kids are all violent and want to go around choking people, but kids have authority figures in their life. And authority figures represent sort of that big bad world. And the ability to sort of reach out and choke the authority figure, shall we say, call it a fantasy, it's not something kids are actually going to do. I mean, kids aren't going to go wrap their, hands around a policeman's neck or their teacher's neck or babysitter, but it's sort of a fantasy. It's sort of a daydream that you think about as a kid. It's like, oh, I wish I could just, choke you. And it's a wouldn't it be cool if moment. And to actually see Darth Vader do this is very empowering, because there really aren't that many superheroes or supervillains that can choke you from a distance. Now, there's not a magic formula that just makes something up like Darth Vader. You can't just, put all of this into a spreadsheet and have it spit out a character that's got a mask and a dark cloak and a signature weapon and can choke people from afar. It's not, you can't just do that. Darth Vader works at the end of the day because he has all these elements, but most important of all, he was created organically. He was not created by a spreadsheet to be, two popular characters smushed together to be a third character. He came about through multiple artists and multiple visions. The original script that George Lucas wrote, Darth Vader didn't even have a mask on. He was just a guy in black armor. Yeah, he had the cape, but he definitely didn't have, the mask or the breathing or, so many things that make him Vader. He was just sort of a scarred human. In fact, he got his mask because in an early draft, Darth Vader crossed over from space into the Rebel ship. And Ralph McQuarrie thought he needed a breathing mask. So that's why both Luke and Vader have breathing masks there. McQuarrie thought he needed it in order to, move from ship to ship. So, Vader's gone through a lot of iterations, samurai influences, sci-fi influences, Valerian, the comic book influences. But again, not created by a spreadsheet. George Lucas didn't sit around in 1975 and put a bunch of data into a computer and have it spit out Darth Vader. And that really is the key difference. When a character is created purely organically and from love and from, love of mythology and love of storytelling, not just a clone of an existing character, but something original, that's why he becomes number one. And Darth Vader has all the elements to make a great villain and a great aspirational character, but at the end of the day, it's because he just had those naturally, and it just worked. And that's why Darth Vader sells so well and remains the most popular Star Wars character, even after so many more movies have been released since he, had his last one. All right, well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please do pass it on to other Star Wars fans and movie fans and, Vader fans. It's the best way to show YouTube to share it with other people. It's their algorithm.